Ellie, how are you?
Yeah, man, good. How was your weekend?
Weekend was fine. I was just trying to figure out some audio issues with the space on YouTube, and I think I did figure it out finally. Long
Oh
story
yeah,
short,
I listened to
yeah,
that. That was something else.
yeah, I think it should be better. So the link to watch on YouTube is at the top of your screens. You can go watch on YouTube as well. This link is at the top of your screens. Alexander, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Mishka, what's going on with you?
Not much. Just currently updating my car and have had an amazing weekend.
Okay, that's really good. XAI, what's new with you? All right, wonderful. Omar, how are you?
Hey, doing good.
You driving today?
I'm in an Uber headed back to San Francisco. I just dropped my car off at OC detailing, so I'll be in the car for about 20 minutes.
All right, great. How is the sound quality on my end?
Really good.
Really? Yeah, so I'm trying a new set of headphones today. I bought an AirPods Max. I'm gonna try these out and see how it works out. And so far, so good. The Bose headphones just didn't really pair well with Apple products. They didn't really switch well between my MacBook and my iPhone. And so far, the AirPods Max seems to be a winner. The sound quality is good. The microphone is much better than Bose. The noise cancellation is good enough for podcasts. And then also, Omar, I got a cooling pad. I spent 24 hours last night. I couldn't sleep trying to cool this freaking laptop down. And I got a cooling pad, and there's a bunch of different connections. And long story short, I have it settled, I think. So if you're on YouTube today, and keep a close ear on the audio quality, hopefully it'll be better today than in previous days. So let me know. Give me frequent updates on the audio quality. All right. TVD, what's new with you? TVD, you have to unmute yourself for us to hear you.
Yo, what's up, man?
What's your question?
Not really much, but
Okay, great. Omar, how was your weekend? How was FSD doing for you?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I'm really at a loss for words. I was driving Waymo a lot this weekend. I went to Outside Lands, but I also drove FSD a lot. It can consistently drive hours now in San Francisco without any intervention. It's not slow, it's not hesitant. It is assertive, it drives like a human, and it has very, very few interventions. Even very complex scenarios don't trip it up. So I just can't wait for everybody to get this. It looks like it's about 7% of the fleet so far that has it. Disappointingly, no hardware 3 yet. A lot of people very upset about that, but hardware 3 support for 12.5 is still coming. It's not going to be in this build, but the 12.5.2 is going to have it.
Yeah, that's really good. Mishka.
Speaking of Waymo, I actually just the other day, over the weekend, met a Waymo employee over in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I don't know if Waymo's public here, but the employee actually owned the Tesla, and he has the 12.5 FSD version, and he was saying that the Tesla FSD is on par with Waymo performance on the training grounds, and he said that he has no idea how Waymo at all is going to compete on outside of the city whatsoever. So I feel like that's also a very good update from a Waymo employee as well.
Emmanuel.
Hi, question for Omar. Do you have any tips for those doing FSD videos?
Yeah, I was actually gonna make a video about how to make an FSD video, but you just get a GoPro and get a suction cup mount, and then get a little extension rod, suction cup it to the roof, take out the battery, and just plug the USB-C directly into your car without a battery. That way you don't have to worry about charging the GoPro. Then, get an SD card, take it out, put it on your computer. I use Final Cut Pro on the Mac to edit it. I use the video stabilization feature on that software. So I turn off stabilization on the GoPro, which uses horizon leveling and makes the camera swing around like crazy. So that doesn't work. So you stabilize it on the Mac, and then you're good to go.
Awesome, thank you.
Habib, welcome.
Hey everybody, how's everyone doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I put some of your Patreon money to work today to improve the audio quality of the YouTube channel and hopefully the X space as well. So thank you for being a patron.
Absolutely. What you've done to the space in the since the beginning is really remarkable. This is a great place. Appreciate it.
All right, Ellie.
Yeah, I second that. You want some updates about the geopolitics?
Yes, please.
So a submarine named Georgia approached Israel. So basically, they're waiting now in our water, just not so far from the shore. We have two airplane carriers, also belonging to the U.S. And the consensus is that something tonight should and maybe might happen. We hope not, but this is what everybody talking about. So we will keep an eye on it.
Thank you, Ellie. Good luck with everything. What do you expect is going to happen tonight?
Yeah, so I heard it from a very good source. That's somebody that shouldn't, like he told me before he called me, is like, are you alone? Can you just go outside for a second? I just want to make sure that you're gonna be safe today. So it's somebody that shouldn't talk about it, but I know this guy for like 20 years. He's working, in the military. So yeah, that's the consensus. And according to what I see in the media, it's that's what IDF is basically like talking about, but not in an official way. Like you can tell, like the telltales.
Okay. Omar, what do you think about this escalation in the Middle East?
I don't know. I have no opinion on it. I haven't really been informed. I just hope that we can avoid any escalation and that everything can be resolved peacefully.
Ellie, has your estimate of a war in the Middle East starting in the next few months changed after the weekend's events?
No, I think it stays the same. Like I don't believe in a full-fledged war like you described. Like one big attack might be it. Like it might last for like a few days. According to what I heard from like what I read, what America think about it is that it will be bigger than what happened in last April. So the attack will be bigger, like more scale. So like just for a few days, but not a full war like you described. So my percentage stay the same, like 10-15% for like a full-fledged war.
Okay, thank you. In conjunction, oil prices have increased in the last week by $7. So about 10%. Oil prices have increased in the last week. This will obviously have effect on inflation figures. But oil prices generally have been pretty flat. Energy prices generally have been pretty flat in the last year. So it shouldn't be that much of a concern for Fed action. This week, tomorrow, we're going to get PPI numbers. And then on Wednesday, we're going to get CPI numbers. And then Thursday, there's a lot of macroeconomic data coming. So this week is going to be very busy for macroeconomic data. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, follow Macro Analyst, who is the co-host. That's where I analyzed macro data. Omar, the indices have pretty much gained everything since last Monday's panic sale. VIX surged above 65 and it's not below 20. Do you think the worst is behind us?
I have no idea. Hopefully.
Well, Rivian shares have come down to below VW type deal prices. Are you still holding on to your productions?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I think they should probably be trading below $10 if people really sort of absorb the financial condition of the company right now. So they're going to be raising again. I don't see any reason to really hold it through that inevitability. And I think investors are going to realize that. They're going to say, okay, why would I hold through several dilutive rounds of fundraising when I could just maybe buy in later if I want to own this company after they're closer to generating positive cash flow. I mean, look at the Volkswagen Rivian deal. They only put in 1 billion. They're putting in the other $4 billion in various forms over time. That, I think, kind of reflects the belief that this company is probably going to continue to decline as they have to do several more dilutive fundraising rounds.
Ishka.
I wanted to ask, so for Tesla, obviously it's currently the leading company for EVs. It's, as of my knowledge, the only profitable EV maker in the US. And I was a little confused on how did Rivian get into the picture and like what's special about Rivian? Because I never really understood that. Because I know that Lucid, they have like their, most efficient engines. Is there anything special about Rivian besides just being a good family car?
Yeah, I mean, they have an R1T, the electric vehicle truck that looks traditional. So to the extent that people may be not ready to switch to a Cybertruck design, maybe they don't like the Cybertruck design, I think they might be interested in buying their R1T or an R1S. And that they have that going for them. They also have a CEO that's more traditional as well. Maybe RJ doesn't post political posts like Elon does. So if you're far left liberal and you're not wanting to buy a Tesla products, Rivian is an alternative for that group of folks.
Do they have any technological advantage or not really?
No, not to my
Okay, thank you.
knowledge. Dallas,
Hey, how's it going, Yaman?
going well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for tonight's interview. I don't want to deviate from the topic, but looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. What'd you think of Friday's conversation with Tom?
Man, I struggle with Tom because there's a lot of things I agree with him on. I resonate with where he comes from. I mean, half of my family is just like Tom. They're Aggies, they're loud and proud, and I really do resonate with a lot of what he says, but I lose him pretty quickly when he starts to get into I don't know, just some of the details and
Your sound got cut off, Dallas. Alexander, what did you think of the conversation? I'm going to pin some data.
Yeah, I I kind of stopped listening from time to time. I tried to listen to it again, and I managed to get a few points in and remember. But yeah,
All right, I'm getting some good feedback from YouTube live chat folks. Dana, thank you very much for keeping an eye on audio quality. Looks better. I made a couple of upgrades to the equipment I use, so hopefully sound quality will be better both on X and YouTube. The link to the YouTube is at the top of your screens. Also, this episode is sponsored by Geopolitical. Use code TSLA live for 5% off your purchases. The link is at the top of your screens. Dallas?
Yeah, sorry, I had an incoming call coming. I think it cut my audio off. No, I like Tom's perspective. I think, Yaman, it lends to your space, right? Like, bring in all types of people with all mindsets, and as long as they follow really basic rules of a space to raise their hand when they want to talk and stuff, that's kind of where I lost him. He just wasn't following really basic rules of communication, but I think it lends to the credence of the space.
Yeah, I mean, he's a political figure. He ran for railroad commissioner in Texas, and I think he's been in politics for a number of years. And I think he wanted to be a lobbyist before that, and he owns oil wells and all that stuff. So, I mean, but it was an interesting conversation, I think, and it kind of pushed me to learn, brush up on a few of the facts about the Ford F-150 sales. So I'm going to pin at the top of our screens a couple of things I learned. So F-150 sales in the US are plunging pretty rapidly, actually. They're nowhere near what people say they are. So a lot of times you'll hear this figure, more than 700,000, 750,000 sold. Those are F-Series sales. F-Series includes F-150 and also Super Duty sales, which means F-250, F-350, F-450, etc. Tesla doesn't have a product right now. Cybertruck doesn't address F-250 and above. It's only addressed towards F-150 market. F-150 market is mostly folks who use these trucks not for work purposes, as really more for grocery getters and maybe tow once a year or carry their neighbors when neighbors are moving, just for that purpose. And Cybertruck can easily do a lot of that. Most F-Series sales are F-150. However, that percentage has been declining. So in the US, F-150 is selling about 500,000 a year rate at this time. And the inventories are surging. So when Ford announces sales, those are deliveries to dealerships, but the dealership inventories are surging. So you can see at the top of our screens, the days of supply for F-150 is 135 days. 135 days. In July, Ford appears to have eliminated one shift in some of their factories, some of their products. So I don't know if that shift is going to come back or not. Maybe they're doing some inventory adjustments, but that's the situation right now. And this is before Cybertruck prices decline. So Cybertruck is still six-figure priced vehicle, but soon it's going to be $80,000 vehicle. Soon it's going to qualify for the $7,500 tax credit. What happens to Ford sales at that point? Omar, any thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, certainly F-150 sales are in decline. I don't think it's necessarily because of the Cybertruck, although the interest in that may have had some effect. But it's really just due to the fact that these are very expensive vehicles. Many truck buyers are underwater on their trucks that they bought during the pandemic. And just in general, you're seeing weakness in the truck market. It's not just F-150, but all kinds of traditional pickup sales are down a little bit. And I think part of that has to do with rates. But long term, I mean, people are going to want a modern truck, a self-driving truck, and whether that's from Ford or Tesla or anybody else, that's what they're going to demand. And I don't necessarily see pickup truck sales rebounding, at least not gas traditional pickup trucks as we think of.
Mishka.
I think that another very big factor into this is the decline of just the automotive industry's sales overall over the past few quarters. And I feel like that could be in effect because of the current economic situation of, stocks being incredibly shaky to where the consumer market might just be afraid to invest a very large amount of money in a very uncertain economy. And I feel like that could also play a very big part for a very expensive car like a Ford truck.
Yeah, and then there's also the fact that the legacy automakers, most of the legacy automakers are simply not good at managing inventory. So, for example, Tesla's days of supply is industry leading, fewer than 20 days. I think it's 18 days as of the last quarter end. Let me just make sure I got that right. And then the second best is Toyota with about 30 days of supply, so 1 month of supply. Tesla has half a month of supply. Toyota has 1 month of supply. Ford in general is more than 3 months. The industry norm standard is supposed to be 2 months, but Ford is going above 100 days now. And the industry overall is expected to go above 100 days by the end of the year. So lots of inventory buildup across the industry. So when you see these Tesla price discounts, subvented rate loans, most of that is due to high rates and industry trends. It's not necessarily because of Elon's tweets and all that stuff. I'll pin at the top of your screens a couple of graphs as well. You can see in these graphs, automotive industries have risen across brands and segments to historically high levels. And combined with seasonality and growing macro headwinds, I would expect these discounts to increase throughout the rest of the year. Automakers that fail to cut costs aggressively won't survive. So when Elon slashed employee count earlier this year, he got very unpopular. Lots of reaction from especially the fan base, longtime fan base. But I think he's going to prove, right by the end of the year. You're not going to see Ford or GM be able to make these cuts with their union labor workforce in such a nimble way. Hustle Town, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pretty good. Just got back from my update from FSD Supervised 12.5.1.3. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, give us some details. How is it doing for you?
Just posted a video on the channel. This was the previous update. It drove for hours at a time. I see no change other than it's just performing admirably. Still has some trouble when we're getting out of the gates a little hesitancy, but for the most part, it's better than it was in the last version. But hours at a time, just driving around the city of Houston. I made a tweet earlier. It's like, I don't care what EV I buy next, but it will have FSD on it. That's all I really know.
Good. Finflexity.
Mind if I add a statistic to the pickup truck sales you were talking about?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it might also be due to a temporary distortion in the market. In 2020, Car Gurus was saying that pickup trucks were attracting more younger buyers during 2020 and 2021. And it just may be that the market is normalizing back into more interest for cars than pickup trucks.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think this is primarily Cybertruck sucking the air out of legacy automakers' trucks. And you can see this in F-150s monthly sales. If you go back several years, F-150 sales in the US peaked literally the month Tesla unveiled the Cybertruck in November 2019. And ever since, it's been year-over-year declines every single month. So I think that's a very strong evidence that Cybertruck is heavily impacting F-150 interest. Dallas?
So just playing devil's advocate, you think Cybertruck is directly impacting not just Lightning sales, but actually the F-Series as a whole, like internal combustion?
Absolutely. There's no question in my mind. But also, beyond that, Model Y is also for a smaller segment of potential buyers for the F-150. I think Model Y is also taking some interest as well. Second, I mean, when the Model Y first came out, it was a $40,000, $50,000 vehicle. In 2021, 2022, prices surged to $70,000 plus. And today, you can get a Model Y for $30,000 after incentives and gas savings. You can get a used Model Y today for $25,000 on Tesla's own website. You can get a used Model Y with reasonable miles plus FSD for about $30,000 today on Tesla's used inventory page. So, Model Y has tremendous interior space. So to the extent that some people may not want to haul around a truck because they're not using the flatbed as often as they thought, or they're not towing as often as they thought, and they want to save on gas, Model Y is not a bad option. And with Cybertruck prices now declining, production ramping, prices declining, I think you're going to see F-150 sales accelerate downward. Ishka?
I believe to support your point as well. So somebody mentioned the 2020, 2021 sales amongst young buyers were like very truck focused. I think that if anything, the Cybertruck has definitely stolen a lot of the youth potential buyers of the trucks over, with the Cybertruck, because I personally do not know many people that are within like my age range that are aware of full self-driving, that are aware of, Tesla's capabilities in future, that aren't already eyeing down a Tesla. Unlike the traditional media usually says. So I do believe that the Cybertruck, alongside with FSD specifically, that's probably the reasons why a lot of sales for trucks are slowing down.
Yeah. So a number of factors. Cybertruck production ramping, Model Y becoming a lot more affordable. F-150 ASP is about $60,000, so price is rising for F-150 over the years. Ford has a lot of quality issues. And also the high interest rates is combined impacting F-150 sales quite a bit. This is very important because there's a joke on Wall Street about F-150. The joke is F-150 is called F-150 because it comprises 150% of profits, Ford's profits. So if F-150 sales go down, then Ford is going to be in trouble as a company. Alexander, then Grant.
You don't need a reservation anymore to order a foundation series. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think Tesla has ramped production and went through the potential demand for 100K price level. And it's a very interesting, this is a very important milestone in the automotive history, automotive industry history, guys. Like this is the $80,000 Cybertruck that qualifies for $7,500 credit is a very important milestone. So I've always said, if you go back to Tesla will be the only automaker by the end of 2025 tweets. Part of that was either FSD becoming really, really good, like robotaxiable good, or Cybertruck production ramping to volume. And that's where we are today. Cybertruck is ramping, production is ramping to volume production. Mishka?
To add to that, I also believe that many people have a very big misunderstanding, especially amongst traditional media, in the way that it's kind of fooling a lot of people and spreading a lot of FUD about, there's no demand about the Cybertruck, and that's why the prices are 100,000, and that's why it's available to everybody now. But I think that people that have a reservation shouldn't cancel it, first of all, because of the cheaper version that will be coming soon, alongside with when Foundation Series ends. But from a business perspective, it's a really smart move for Tesla to open up Foundation Series to everybody so that they're able to, squeeze out the most profit that the company can to, improve margins and all that for shareholders, but also to ensure that they have the most amount of cash flow to utilize toward the massive ramp up and toward the actual expansion of all of their future plans.
Alexander?
Can you pass on a foundation series and still hold your reservation?
Yes.
All right. Alexander, can you repeat what Mishka said?
What? If I
Can
can
you
repeat?
summarize Mishka's point?
He said yes to my question.
Yeah, before that, he talked for about a minute. What did he say?
He talked about the demand a bit.
Yeah, but what was his point?
Is this a trick question?
No, I'm wondering what his point was.
I don't know.
Yeah. Dallas, can you summarize Mishka's point?
No, I cannot.
Hustletown?
To be fair, my wife was talking to me, so
Mhm.
I, no.
Team Flexity, can you summarize Mishka's point? Emmanuel, can you summarize Mishka's point? Yeah. Mishka, what did we learn from this experience?
Either nobody's listening or that I poorly explained my point.
You're very smart, but your communication skills need work. And I told you this many times, and we go through the same exercise every single time. If nobody understood your point, did you even speak?
No.
You just talk to yourself. So start with your point, be very succinct, and get off the run-on sentences. If you do those three things, then your communication skills will improve greatly.
Appreciate the feedback.
Grant?
Yeah, I wanted to share a more gloom and doom outlook on Cybertruck. I have taken, note of the news that it looks like they burned through a lot of the Foundation Series demand. I also saw something that they've stopped taking reservations on the lower cost models. I don't have any confidence that this is a real profit machine. I don't really know that it's going to scale. I think there's an outside chance that they look to kind of like sunset it at some point in the next couple of years, if I'm being honest.
Okay. How many do you think they will deliver next year, Grant?
I know I have a bet for 50,000 this year from like December 23, and I feel very confident in that bet. I think it might be the same for next year. I mean, my read on it is that no one wants to pay $100,000 for these cars. They can't make them at 60K profitably. I think they're still working through a ton of kinks when it comes to the builds. I see a ton of them getting, returned back to service centers with different types of issues. I mean, that also dings the profitability of the line. I would say, just because I know the opinions here will be different, I'll say less than 100K next year. It would be my bet.
Okay. I'll make a coffee bet with you that Tesla will deliver more than 100,000 Cybertrucks next year. Let's go to Dallas.
Can you confirm that they're getting rid of the lower price model? I read that article as well, but I kind of read it off as not valid.
Yeah, it's confirmed. They removed the option to order the $60,000 vehicle. Omar, what do you think about that?
Well, they're still going to make non-Foundation Series vehicles. I think people are interpreting it incorrectly if they think, okay, there's never going to be a non-Foundation Series. They just want to open up Foundation Series invites to anybody before they stop making Foundation Series. So if somebody wants to pay $100,000 for the truck, who are we to stop them, right? So open up the orders to anybody who wants one. I think the demand for Foundation Series has lasted way longer than we expected. We had the orders open up in November of last year. Here we are in July. I think people thought it would be a much shorter thing. Now it's looking like it's going to go maybe until Q4 at the earliest. But then they are going to open up the non-Foundation Series orders and start taking orders for trucks starting at $80,000 on up, depending on how you configured it. And I think there's a lot of people waiting for that to order. I mean, this thing is a massive hit. It's already the best selling electric truck. People just love it. I was just over at OC Detailing dropping my car off for a ceramic coat, and there were like 3 other Cybertrucks showing up. They were getting wrapped, and it's just incredible to drive. It's really Tesla's best product. So I could see maybe next year somewhere between 100,000 to 200,000 units delivered. And I think they'll eventually extend the product line, maybe to a cyber SUV that has a third row of seating instead of a bed, kind of like the R1T, R1S. And I think it has a really bright future. There's a lot of bears who are trying to spread some cyber FUD, say, oh, the Cybertruck's a failure, everybody hates it. Take it from somebody who owns one, it's nonsense. People love this thing. It's the best-selling electric truck at 100K. And when they start producing the non-foundation series, it's going to sell even higher volumes. I think it's funny that they extend the foundation series, which is 100K configuration, and people try and spin it as, oh, there's no demand. I mean, we haven't even gotten started here making the cars as volume gets higher, as they ramp 4680 production, as they go to dry cathodes and anodes, costs are going to keep coming down. And I mean, this is Tesla we're talking about. What product have they ever had where they kept it expensive? They're going to keep driving the cost down on this thing like crazy. And that's when it starts to get scary for the industry, because not only is this thing just going to be competitive on cost, it's just a far superior product with things like steer-by-wire, FSD, and all of Tesla's software.
Mishka.
I also think it speaks volumes that the Cybertruck is the best-selling electric truck right now, when Ford Lightning, obviously Ford, a more recognized brand in the US than Tesla to an extent, is selling their trucks brand new, 100+ days of inventory for prices of half, or if not even less, at $50,000 or less, brand new,
Yeah.
never driven off the lot.
Yep. Grant.
Yeah, a comment then a question. I always end up disagreeing with Omar on this stuff, but that's really because I'm reading forums on Reddit and Facebook where a lot of people are dissatisfied. So I just encourage people to do their research when they, figure out if they want to believe this is a smash hit product or not. And then the question is, how many of these have actually been delivered? The article from Reuters that I was reading that said they were removing the ability to reserve the lower cost model said that it was something like 16,000 year to date. Is that right? Does that jive with people's understandings, or what do you think that number is?
I don't know, but I don't think it's that important. What are these issues that you read on Reddit and other forums that you just mentioned? Name top 3.
Warning lights coming on that require service visits within a few days of delivery. Obviously, the build, like pieces of metal flying off on the highway. And then, I don't know, just like other things to do with like beeps and bops and boops and sounds and jiggles. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff where
that's par for the course for any new vehicle
$100,000
production
car. I doubt it. I mean, just disagree. It's fine.
Okay. And the Model 3, when it first came out, they had people had similar comments. In 2019, 2020, people had similar comments for the Model Y, and now it's the best-selling vehicle in the world, and it's only going to grow. So I think Cybertruck, these comments that you might read on Reddit, where people really hate Elon for some reason, they I don't think they're representative of the future. I wouldn't use them as an indication of anything. Let's go to Dallas and then Emmanuel.
Yeah, first I want to touch on that point just made there. I mean, to say that's par for the course I disagree. It's a $100,000 truck, like you said. I mean, you can't write that off. If you're going to spend that kind of money, everything needs to be pretty damn near perfect. But touching on that again, why do people compare this?
Well, here's the problem.
Okay.
If you wait for everything to be perfect, then you're not going to deliver the Cybertruck until 2025, 2026. So if you're the CEO of Tesla, you have to make a decision. Do I start producing them in 2023, ramp throughout 2024, and or do I go through production hell in 2025 and maybe achieve a slightly better build quality? The fact is, people are buying this $100,000 products. So, Omar?
Yeah, I mean, I can just speak as someone who bought a Cybertruck, bought an early Model 3. When you have a new vehicle program, especially, something like Tesla, where the Model 3, the Cybertruck are, very different types of vehicles. There can sometimes be little issues here and there. That's part of being an early adopter. So for me, my Cybertruck was pretty good overall. There was a issue with the front passenger side ventilated seat. It wasn't like blowing air through. Apparently the hose wasn't connected properly. So, I had a service center visit for that. I also had like some sound it was making, but the Tesla service center was able to fix that. So, it's true that there are some issues when you have a new product like this, but overall, it's nothing really dramatic. They were able to fix the minor issue with the ventilated seat. It's not really a seat I'm sitting in. It was more for my passenger. Your mileage may vary. Some person may have a worse problem than another person. Someone else may have no problems. But generally, they're pretty good vehicles. I think it's Tesla's best product. I wouldn't tell anyone not to buy one over concerns about you know, some quality issues or something. It's generally a very high quality, very reliable product. It's never failed to take me on long, long road trips. I've never had an issue with it. And obviously, Grant is really someone who's coming at this as a bear. He's going out and searching, looking for problems. If you were to say, okay, I want a short Toyota and go out and look for problems, you could find a lot of people who had issues with their car for one reason or another. But that's not necessarily going to tell you the success or the failure of the product. I think that when you really look at the propulsion, electric vehicles are far more reliable and have far fewer issues with the core functionality than any ICE car. They always start up and get you where you're going. And I think generally people are pretty happy with that as much as he wants to paint it as this doom and gloom scenario. Just bring up some Cybertruck owners here on the speaker board and ask them. They love it.
Yeah, and Ken in YouTube live chat says no part is perfect. There's no perfect Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, etc. Regardless of the SRP. Anyone?
I got a Cybertruck in January, and I had no issues. The only thing was Tesla contacted me to identify it. I got a Cybertruck in January, and I've had no issues. The only thing was Tesla contacted me to add that divot to the accelerator pedal because that had happened to one guy, I think. On the Foundation series, I wanted to mention.
Grant.
Yeah, I think this is so one thing to your comment, Yaman, they did wait. They waited a number of years beyond the original delivery and production date, and it still didn't come out well. So you're acting as though they made a choice to, ship it early so they didn't have to spend more time working through build issues. I don't think that they did. They were already pretty late. I take Elon at his word on this one when he says that they really dug their own grave with this car. I think everyone on this board ignores that comment, but it's a very difficult build. It's very expensive and it has a ton of issues. Like when he says that, it means something to me. And I think that that's being reflected in what we're seeing. So I linked a comment from December of last year where I said they wouldn't deliver 50,000 units this year. I think I will again end up being right. There are a ton of people saying it's going to be 200,000, crazy numbers. And it's just another moment for people to take a beat and realize that, again, they've let their hopes get the best of them and this company has failed to deliver.
Omar.
So, Grant, did you expect that the Cybertruck would be outselling the Ford F-150 Lightning and Rivian R1T combined before they started offering the base model product?
I think that's a completely meaningless statistic. If anything, it demonstrates that the demand for electric trucks is very weak.
So, being the best-selling product in the category is meaningless.
We've had this discussion before. Best-selling, pet rock doesn't mean you're a billion-dollar business. Best-selling doesn't mean much. No.
Well, a lot of people would say trucks are a huge market. EVs have been a huge market. Electric trucks are probably going to be a fast-growing market as well. So the player that establishes dominance in that market is probably well positioned to capitalize on that growth.
Well, congrats on the 16,000 units. I think a decent portion of those buyers feel fleeced by the company and unhappy with the product. I don't see it becoming a success. But again, I'm happy to be the bear here, and I'm happy to be proven correct with time.
Uzi.
Hello, I'm back from California. I saw 5 Cybertrucks when I was eating dinner one day. It was gorgeous. And, Grant's kind of crying. If Cybertruck, I'd be more focused on Cybertruck profitability than anything else. Saying people feel fleeced if you're buying a 100K car, I mean, that's just a fuddish argument, in my opinion. You could buy a 300K Ferrari and feel so much better about yourself.
Mishka.
I think there's a lot of also like misconception on when everybody talks about the Cybertruck having so many issues, when maybe the issues are a lot more, far and few in between, but because Tesla has such a vocal community, we see these issues be so much greater. Because especially like within my family, we purchased a Bronco Raptor. It was over $100,000. It was my dad's at the time dream car, and we had significantly more issues with that car than any Cybertruck history that I've read anywhere. And actually, we traded it in for a Model Y. My dad ended up doing that because he was just so tired of going to the Ford service about 3 times a month because it had a suspension issue. It had a lot more critical, it's something with an axle issue. And I feel like those are much more critical issues than, a panel flying off of a Tesla Cybertruck, where sure, it's definitely insane for a $100,000 vehicle, but at the very least, the vehicle can drive itself. And at the very least, when you go to the Tesla service center, they help.
Grant.
Yeah, I mean, it's all fair. I do think that it's worth keeping in mind that the people who have purchased these vehicles at this point are super fans of sorts. Like, not many people are going to shell out 100K for a car from a company with a cult-like following, and in some cases be dead honest with themselves about regretting it. I think there are plenty of
You
people.
just said they felt fleeced. So
Well,
do they feel fleeced or are they super fans? Which is it?
I was about to say before you interrupted that a lot of them are willing to admit that. And again, encourage people to look at forums online. I'm not sitting here doing what Omar's doing, which is saying, trust me because of this or that fact. I'm saying go out and look and, develop an informed opinion based on a variety of sources. I spend time on the Facebook and Reddit forums for Cybertruck. Cyberstuck is also a popular one. That's definitely, to be fair, characterized by a ton of Elon haters. But I think there's a Cybertruck owners group on Facebook where a lot of people come with a lot of complaints and they are not happy customers. So, trust Omar if you want, but I think it's good to just go out and look and develop your own opinion.
Team Flexity.
There are entire forums dedicated to hating on Tesla and Elon and electric vehicles on Facebook and Reddit, but that's not the point I want to make. As a car is ramping production, the production quality obviously improves with every month, every car produced. Even companies which are making less than 1000 cars, so for example, Koenigsegg, I think, they had to recall, I think, all of their cars basically because they would burst into flames, all because they were going too fast, and they have made less than 1000 cars. When you buy a car, you are going to have some problems, there is going to be production issues, but as the RAM goes forward, they will come down, and Tesla has good production quality in the mass market.
Omar.
Yeah, I think it's just not really something anyone really needs to think about. This is an incredibly solid vehicle, one of the most solid Teslas ever built. It's super reliable. I put 9,000 miles on mine in just a few months. This is just pure FUD to get us talking about, oh, the Cybertruck has issues. There's no issues. I mean, I got one of the first 2,000 units, and it's been incredibly solid. So really go to the streets of Los Angeles and just stand around and look, and you'll see that this thing is a hit. Okay. As much as bears like Grant want to be in denial and say, oh, people hate it, it's so bad. Go just stand on the street and see how many Cybertrucks there are. This is Tesla's biggest hit ever as a product. It's the best product that they've ever released. And every single product Tesla's released, the bears have come and said, oh, Model 3 people hate it. It's a disaster. Oh, Model Y people hate it. It's just a bigger Model 3. Oh, people hate the Cybertruck. Nobody expected it to be dominating the category when it's double the price of the F-150 Lightning. And that trend is going to continue. Nobody else is able to make an electric truck profitably. Tesla's vertical integration here, doing the 4680 structural pack in-house, getting that $45 per kilowatt hour infrastructure for the battery production that's done domestically, they actually have a shot at making an electric truck profitably. And that's what's going to allow them to scale to much higher volumes than the F-150 Lightning or the Rivian R1T. And that's why the Cybertruck is significant. It's an electric truck that's good. And a lot of people want an electric car that's a truck, so they can do truck stuff, but also get the benefits of electric. So I think it's a hit. And as much as bears want to be in denial and say it's a flop, they're going to be stunned when they see that this is really just the start compared to what this thing is going to do. I mean, this thing is going to do probably in North America alone hundreds of thousands of units a year.
Grant, what would convince you that this is a hit? Seeing what would convince you that Cybertruck is a hit?
Doing hundreds of thousands of units a year. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Okay, but that's kind of like, saying I'll believe you when I see it. What about early indications of that?
Well, I mean, what makes something a hit, right? Like, in my mind, it's a lot of people liking it a lot. Right now, we have 16,000 owners, many of whom, and Omar says go out and stand in the streets of Los Angeles, which, if I'm being honest, I don't know how that makes you any smarter about what the public perception of this product is. Like, maybe you see 5 and you're like, oh, yeah, that proves it. Not really. I think it's a much better approach if you want to educate yourself on what's going on with the product, to do some of the like basic cursory research that I do to inform my opinions, which includes going on forums where owners talk about the very specific issues that they're having and how they feel having spent $100,000 on a car that has a bunch of different types of issues. Okay. I don't think that you can call it a hit today because it has a small number of users, and a lot of them, or some of them, we can agree, aren't happy with it. I think it's fair to say for it to be a hit, it would need to have a lot of people using it and very happy. So yeah, like a couple 100,000 units a year would make it a hit in my mind. I don't know why we're calling it a hit based on people in Los Angeles driving it, or I guess some people who, again, are very, very dedicated Tesla fans saying that it's amazing. That's kind of a given.
Okay, let's go through we have a lot of hands. Let's go through the hands real quick. Ready, player one, go ahead. I can't hear. Ready? Hustle Town, go ahead.
Just a quick question for Grant. When you're doing your research, do you see any positive things, or is it all negative?
Yeah, he said he does see positives. Alexander, go ahead.
Grant, have you ever watched YouTube ever?
Yes, he has. Mishka, go ahead.
I really want to ask Grant, do you think there's some sort of a statistic behind who the buyers for all of these Cybertrucks are? Because with people spending over $100,000, I wonder, are the people that are buying the Cybertrucks, as you said, the cultist followers that might be spending their first $100,000 ever on a car and expecting no issues whatsoever? Or are these buyers of other cars that might have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars before and have seen that even $100,000 cars might have issues?
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Ron, go ahead.
A couple of quick points. Number one, what's going to happen when FSD hits the Cybertruck and you see all the celebrities being driven around by their truck? I think that's going to be huge. Number two, what's going to happen in a year when you can get a Cybertruck used for about 60 to 65K? That's when I'm going to buy one. I think it's going to proliferate the market. That's going to be huge. And number three, how much, in the long haul, is Cybertruck really going to impact Tesla as a whole? I think you're kind of missing the forest before the trees.
Thank you. Uzi and then Omar.
So to clarify, your news sources are Reddit, Facebook, and sales. Grant, is that it?
I missed the last one. Do you say sales?
Yeah, Cybertruck sales or ownership.
Yeah, it's like Cybertruck owners groups on these forums.
Okay. Omar?
Sorry, I wasn't listening. I was talking to somebody, but you know, Grant was saying, well, what's the point of going onto the streets and looking? People only drive a car if they like it, right? If it's really this horrible car that they're complaining about and they're so furious, they're not going to drive it, right? I mean, if you have $100,000, you can afford multiple cars. So the fact that it's popping up, the fact that people are driving it is material, right? And honestly, I think if Grant stood in the streets of Los Angeles and looked at how many Teslas there were, he'd have a heart attack. Let me tell you what the experience is like of actually owning this product. You go around, everywhere you go, people are like, oh my God, can I look at that? Can I see that? They want to ask you about it. What is that? Oh, that's a Tesla? There's like little kids coming up and saying, hey, I want to take a picture of this with, can I have my kid take a picture in front of this to send to their friends? Other EV enthusiasts are talking to you about it. People are excited. You take your friends in it, you go on a camping trip, you go somewhere, and everybody's like, oh my God, I love this truck. It's so nice to ride in. It's so smooth. It's so fast. Like people are really in love with this product. Everybody, not just the owners, but their friends, their relatives. And that's what I mean when I say it's a hit. That's why people are paying. I mean, to pay $100,000 right now with interest rates where they are. So, you're paying probably a car payment that's more than $1,000, right? You're paying a car payment that is more than somebody's rent in many cases. So the fact that people are buying these and keeping these, it speaks to really the love of the product, and
Yeah.
it's really a phenomenal product.
Yeah. I mean, Foundation Series was supposed to be just a couple of months. And it is, we're coming up to September almost, and they're still going strong. So I don't think anyone expected 100,000 price to stay for this
Yeah,
long. So
people are
that's
saying 10,000 units maybe.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And they're gonna have delivered tens of thousands of units, of 100,000 plus for this vehicle. Let's go to Zachary.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I've talked to 4 Cybertruck owners in my neighborhood, and everybody loves their car. And just an anecdote. Yesterday I was in downtown to see a concert of Metallica, and somebody bring the Cybertruck, and that thing was people around it. Everybody was asking about it. I mean, everybody was excited, and maybe it's just the crowd that people like Metallica and stuff, but I'm telling you, like so many people was around and wanted to take a picture with it, and just having it was just like spaceship. So
Good. Grant, what do you make of this tremendous celebrity status of this vehicle going around the country, around the world? You can see search interest. I posted yesterday. Search interest is rising in the Cybertruck, and on a global level, really.
I think you guys can believe whatever you like, honestly. This is one of these classic things where obviously we disagree. It's true that no one thought the Foundation series would still be the only model being sold in August. Like that at a point, that's not a good thing. If it's like January next year and we sold like 30,000 of these things and it's still the only one available, I think you'll have to admit that's a bad thing. It's just going to be something that'll play out with time. And I expect I'll be able to come back at some point and say like, haha, I'm right. Just the way that I am going to do to Omar at the end of this year when the deliveries come up short of 50K.
Mishka.
I'm gonna have to slightly agree with Grant on that. I don't think the celebrity status necessarily means that the truck is succeeding, in the, I guess you could say, like, usability and in the being a good vehicle. I think that that does help its popularity, does help its sales, but I don't think that necessarily means that it is a good car. But I do think that one thing that I would want to ask Grant is, when people are complaining about a vehicle or when you see complaints, usually people would complain about it because obviously they're having a problem and they would like to have it addressed. But isn't it also common that people that like the product, they wouldn't really go out and say, oh yeah, we love it? Because if they like it, wouldn't they just be more likely to keep to themselves?
I mean, Tesla has a very rabid fan base. I admire that in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, we're all sitting in a group called Tesla Live with like probably a couple hundred people. I mean, it's definitely not normal in that sense with this company.
Speaking of not normal, we have Machine on the board now. Machine, how was your weekend?
Well, it was good. And I just finished a trail run, climbing onto private property, roads that were totally unstable, required 4x4 driving. Cybertruck could probably make it. And these ranch owners who chased me away as I climbed through the barbed wire gates, I think they would have preferred to have a Cybertruck to catch up to me, but they did not. And therefore, they could not catch up to me. And I just find this whole conversation I just ran into very amusing because I feel like these people, it's their first time seeing a new Tesla vehicle come out. And oh my God, are you saying people on the internet are complaining about a new Tesla vehicle? That has never happened before on Reddit, on Facebook. Never have people complained about the Model Y. People never complained for sure about the new Model 3. Definitely not the Model X and the Falcon Wing doors or the Model S. These things did not happen. Everyone was perfectly happy on the internet with these cars when they came out. And it's only now with the Cybertruck that people are complaining. And people also in those cars definitely did not pay a lot of money for the first versions. That did not happen. And people then definitely did not buy subsequent models that were cheaper. All that did not happen. And the company was not successful.
Well, welcome. It's nice to have you in this space. Omar.
Yeah, I totally agree with the point about everyone just being excited. My cousin who I grew up with just had a few kids, and every time I see my nieces and nephews and pull up in the Cybertruck, they're like, Cybertruck, they run out, they're so excited, they want to ride in it. And it's just generally like that everywhere you go, pretty much everybody you see. And it's also just a really good vehicle as well. It doesn't just stop at, oh, wow, that looks weird. Once they get in, they ride in it, they go, wow, this is nice. There's so much space in here. It's so smooth. Wow, it's so fast. So, the Bears, I think Machine was spot on. They'll just find a way to spin everything negative. Oh, they're still making Foundation series? Well, that's bad. Right? And then when they start making non-foundation series, they'll say, "Oh, well now they're not making not foundation series. That's bad too, because now they don't have any demand for the foundation series anymore." I mean, we're arguing with a guy who thinks Adrian Dittman is Elon Musk, and they the Bears said the Cybertruck will never be produced. It's not road legal. Then it started to be produced, and they said, well, okay, it'll be produced, but it'll never sell as well as the Lightning and the Rivian. Those are traditional trucks. Then it started outselling the two of them combined. And they said, well, now they're still only making Foundation series. And he comes here and goes, ah, I was right. I'm going to come back and tell you I was right.
Grant.
Yeah, I've actually faded on Adrian being at Elon. I think I just couldn't bring myself to believe that this guy is doing what he's doing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's one way to react to me being right, I guess, is to like make me sound like a creepy mouth breather. But like the reality is it's just been a disappointing product rollout. Like it took years longer than it was supposed to get it out. They've burned through the backlog of people who wanted it. The ones that are out there are having issues. They've made way less than any of you thought they would this year. They're having issues. Like, you can just tell me I'm an idiot. That's fine. But like time has a way of resolving these things.
Okay. In the meantime, a couple of news from the automotive industry. Ram, so Stellantis, is discontinuing Ram 1500 Classic, which is a $35,000 to $60,000 vehicle. So it's their entry level. $35,000, $40,000, $45,000 is usually where it goes. Ram 1500 Classic is being discontinued by Stellantis. They laid off 2,450 people, and which is interesting, right? As Cybertruck prices decline and $80,000 Cybertruck is on tap, legacy automakers are getting rid of their base models. That's a stunner. So that's going to be a rapid shift in market share as Tesla ramps Cybertruck. Also, in interesting news, Jaguar is out of new car market for a full year next year. They're discontinuing their ICE vehicles. They're getting ready to produce some EVs, but not until 2026. So in 2025, they're going to be pretty much a used car. The dealership is going to be selling used cars and services, which is an interesting piece of news. Omar, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the pickup truck market generally seems to be in decline.
Yeah. And then in other news, CATL is opened a new car showroom in China. CATL opened a new car showroom with 100 EVs from 50 brands. I think this is an interesting strategic move by CATL. They're trying to diversify their customers, basically. They don't want any one or two customers comprising 10%, 20%, 30% of their battery purchases. That's a very smart strategic move by CATL, in my opinion. We already talked about Tesla stopping taking orders for the base Cybertruck. Machine, what else is new with you?
I think relevant to Tesla, I'm trying not to think the CEO is an abject liar on FSD progress quantitatively. I'm still holding out hope that he's not, but the data's not looking great either.
Okay. Are you referring to the improvement that he forecasted with 12.4, 12.5 not materializing on FSD tracker, or what exactly?
Yeah, but I think FSD tracker has a lot of issues at this level. I have seen some analysis by someone, which I actually think is pretty good, where they actually controlled for within individual changes instead of just looking at this aggregate, studying for people who've entered data repeatedly with different versions of FSD and focusing just on them. What trends are we seeing? And I think that's a little more of a controlled approach. Unfortunately, they only did it for regular disengagements, not critical. But I think it did show a bigger improvement. So I would like to see that same analysis done with critical.
How did they? So who are the 4 people?
4? What'd you say?
Yeah, who are they?
I didn't say 4.
Who did you say?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm saying they did a within subject, within individual analysis trend. I don't know how many people they had.
Okay.
I think he said 4 select people, like only 4 some people.
Oh, I see. FOR. Yeah, I mean, without knowing who those people are, what their geographies are, I don't know how you prefer that over an aggregate. That's ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. It has its own flaws, but I think it can show you everyone has their own bias and their own geographic biases, and this helps control for that a little bit more. It's in fact what I've suggested Tesla needs to do when they report their autopilot performance, which is very poor statistically how they report it, and there's no reason they couldn't do a better job. So it's purely marketing material at this point, and so at least someone's trying to do that with the open source data, which is but it's way too little.
First I have a question for you, and I'm gonna go to Omar. But before that, this episode is sponsored by Joa. Thank you, Joa, for sponsoring the Tesla community. You can use code TSLA Live for 5% of your purchases. The link is at the top of your screens. Machine, how are you feeling about our bets? We're coming up to September. You're kind of running out of time for 99% of rides being critical disengagement free. How are you feeling about it?
Not good. No.
Okay, would you like to close that bet?
No, I mean its value is already very low right now. There's no reason to close it out because I already have no value on it.
Okay, Omar.
Yeah, I mean, I think 99% of drives already have no critical disengagement with the latest version, and it's just ridiculous that people are taking the data on FSD tracker seriously. This data is garbage, okay? It is garbage. And, machine thinking he knows what's actually going on with the software from this website and laughing at me when I'm telling him that 99% of it drives are already no critical disengagement. I mean, go check out the video I posted where it's driving through San Francisco for an hour. How much crazy stuff happens. Nothing can trip it up. Okay. There's no interventions, let alone safety critical disengagements. Okay. Like the safety critical stuff is so rare. And if anything, he was underselling it, right? The 5 to 10x miles per intervention doesn't even tell the whole story. Like, you're laughing, but come on a drive with me and tell me if you think I'm wrong.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Grant before Machine, but Grant, we have a comment for you in YouTube live chat. I really like YouTube live chat because people are humorous, and a member, Jake McCombs, says the main reason I listen on YouTube and not X is that so I can pause when Grant speaks and then fast forward to pass it. Grant?
You better hit pause, buddy. Well, I just want to highlight one area of consistent disagreement here, which is that Omar wants you to not look at other data and just trust him. And I think, it's clearly my stance. I think it's Machines as well, that actually FSD beta tracker or reviews of products by other customers are great places to learn about what's actually going on with Tesla. It's just an interesting contrast. Whereas Omar is insisting, no, just watch my videos, listen to what I have to say. I think everyone can make their own decision in terms of the better way to understand what's going on in reality. But it's a pretty stark contrast right now.
Machine.
Omar is like the Wizard of Oz, hiding behind a curtain, yelling at people when they realize it's fake, saying, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." This is what these charlatans want you to believe. Unfortunately, there actually is a little bit of real data. And this is why also, of course, Tesla does not publish their internal data. If it was so great, why wouldn't they tell us? For 5,000 miles reported on the FSD beta tracker with 12.5, 6,000 miles. If this thing was so great, there would be a handful of critical disengagements total for that amount of miles. Okay, this is what the claims of the CEO are, is that for that many miles, there would be maybe 5 critical disengagements. But on city streets, the city miles to critical disengagement is still 160, which means there are something like 40 critical disengagements for that many miles. This thing is nowhere near what they're saying it is. I get for Omar, his data's better. The software may be overfit to San Francisco, LA, California, maybe Texas. And that's possible. I honestly didn't think, I would think they'd have so much data that it wasn't getting overfit, but now I'm seeing from other people doing these analyses and hypothesizing that there's too many edge cases that they can't basically reliably validate. They have to use it in their training. And this argument means they're overfitting. I think they're overfitting, and I think they're reporting, when Musk states so, they're reporting their overfit data. So it makes it look better.
Omar.
Wrong, 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 wrong. You are so wrong. Okay. It's working. Go ride in it. Anyone can go sign up for a test drive. The test drive cars have the software. Go sign up for a test drive and go ride it. Go talk to somebody who has the software and ask them what they're experiencing. I shared a number of tweets. You can search my account, look for the little map pin emoji. I've got people all across the country, Boston, Massachusetts, Florida. It is not overfit to one area. It's driving like a human. It's doing it without any safety critical interventions. People do not understand the nuance of this data. It's so flawed, right? So, first of all, we're relying on surveys of people, right? So, first of all, you're asking the wrong question. obviously this isn't a robotaxi. It's probably not even going to be a robotaxi within the next 12 months at the least, right? So the miles per intervention is irrelevant. Okay. Nobody cares about the miles per intervention. What you actually want to look at to assess the impact of this on Tesla's finances is user satisfaction. So you want to drive in it, you want to see, is this a compelling product? And you want to ask people who are using it, do you like it? You want to assess, is this something that people are going to buy? And it's at a stage where it can drive for hours without you doing a thing. You don't have to touch anything, no safety issues. Now you may say, well, that's only 300 miles. Okay, well, when I'm driving 30 miles an hour, that's 10 hours. Okay, so barely any issues. It's just doing everything perfectly. Now, when you look at this data, like too many people look at this and take it as fact. It's interesting to look at, sure. It may be the best attempt that we have to try and compile some data, but it's extremely flawed data. Obviously, you're basing this on surveys. Everybody has a different idea about what is a disengagement. Was that really going to be an issue? Did it make me uncomfortable? Then just look at the, table, for example. Number of entries. Number one state with 84 entries, Texas. Number two, New Jersey. Number three, Saskatchewan. Number three, Arizona. Number four, Mississippi. Number five, Massachusetts. Number six, British Columbia. Number six, Indiana. Number seven, California. And I bet I know who the Indiana is. It's probably Bradford. So, why does Indiana have more records than California? So, if you want to actually figure out what the stats are going to be representative for the fleet, you need to normalize this data back to the distribution of Tesla's fleet. Because Texas and Saskatchewan may be at the top of the list for the FSD tracker because that's who's reporting. But most of the customers, the biggest base is going to be in California. Like there's a ton of people who live around where I am, and you can say, oh, it's overfit. They only need to get it to work in one place to launch a robotaxi, right? If it works really well in one market, people will use it there. Waymo only works within certain markets, right? But then they say, oh, well, it only works in that one place. Well, you only need it to work in one place. So, really, that's not going to tell you what the fleet is experiencing. If most of the people are in California and they're experiencing zero intervention drives, but you're saying, oh, it's having some problem in Saskatchewan, I mean, it's not really going to give you an accurate picture of what's going on. I mean, I could go on and on. Like highway miles, that's the old stack. It's not particularly relevant in assessing what the performance of the new end-to-end highway stack is. And speed, for example. So, you know, if I'm in rural Texas and I go 300 miles without a disengagement, wow, super impressive. But, 30 miles per disengagement in New York City is actually way more impressive than 300 miles in Texas without a disengagement. Like, how dumb are people? Do they not understand the nuance in this data? You can't just look at some spreadsheet and go, "Oh, I know." Like the people who are actually driving it don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
This spreadsheet is showing a small improvement. It's a
yeah,
huge improvement. More than just what's in the number on miles per intervention, it's comfortable. It's assertive. It doesn't annoy you like you used to. I mean, I was driving it this morning and I said, "Okay, I have to switch onto the different highway. I have to take the exit. Let me turn it on." And I realized I'm thinking, oh, I don't want to make a mistake and mess this up and miss the exit. Let me turn it on because it's so good. It's more likely to get to the right place than I am.
yeah,
This is a huge turning point.
yeah. I mean, Omar makes really great points, and I know Machine is going to poop on in a second, but he said he doesn't expect. I think the FSD tracker is useful in a sense of estimating kind of robotaxi timeline. So when Omar said, we're not expecting robotaxi performance in the next 12 months or so, I saw Tesla Yoda down in the audience cry a little bit. But if he's welcome to come up and update his predictions. Oh, there he is. Speak of the Yoda. I need to move one person down here. Give me 1 second. But on top of that, there is definitely, so for example, somebody in the YouTube live chat says, by G Door says, at least the sentiment on posts on X and on YouTube channels have improved a lot. Before V12, it works sometimes. Now people are pretty blown away by how good it is. Granted, just comments, but the sentiment has definitely improved quite a bit. I agree with that. We're not going to see robotaxi level performance in the next 12 to 18 months with the current hardware. But people, and FSD as ADAS, I think is going to see some take rate improvements in the coming quarters. And Bernie Tesla, when I did a one interview, he was also very positive. I highlight people watching the interview. So my YouTube channel link is at the top of their screens. And next interview is going to be with Omar. And again, YouTube members are going to get exclusive access to it for a week before it goes publicly available. Now let's go to machines. Wow. Pay money to listen to Omar give an interview. You have paid me money. Okay, let's go to WeChat.
So I think the problem with the FSD tracker is that that's not really the data Tesla is basing the progress they are making on. If you really want to see what Tesla sees, you should track the exact same street and the exact same circuits that Tesla uses when their validators go around. Because you cannot take for granted, you cannot think it's correct data of a car going in a section that has maybe map data incorrect, or edge cases that they don't even have. Of a car going in a section that has maybe map data incorrect, or edge cases that they don't even have thought about. You need to basically, it's super wrong.
Okay, machine.
I mean, you basically just said what I said, which is that their model's overfit. If you think you can't report the performance on a set of things that aren't exactly what Tesla trained on, that the performance differs, that is the definition of overfit in data science and machine learning. So yes, maybe you're right, but that doesn't mean what Tesla reports is the correct figure. It's performance in the real world that matters. And so when the CEO reports that there's going to be a 5x improvement in miles per intervention between versions, and then another big improvement, he's talking to his audience. Those are the people who go on the real streets in the real world to use this software, and they're thinking this thing's going to be 10 to 20x better, and it's not.
It is, though. It's even better than that. He was underselling it, if anything.
It's so fake, because what I said a year ago was that I give
Come right in it and tell me I'm wrong.
There's all these flaws with FSD beta tracker, some of which you brought up. But then, of course, you mentioned things like California. You go look at the California data specific. It's got 93% of trips without a critical disengagement. So it's not like California's doing pretty well.
I mean, we understand that you are extremely angry that you're about to lose a bet to me. But that doesn't mean Elon lied. Okay, you're going to have to need more evidence to claim the CEO lied.
Well, my big picture thing with FSD beta tracker is that it's not going to give us exact details. But as I said a year ago, I expect that if there is a literal order of magnitude improvement in the software in terms of miles per critical disengagement, that should show up in the software. And I don't know if this is it even 2x higher than 12.3 now. I that's kind of under that threshold.
It's too soon to tell. We don't have enough data. On 12.3.6, we had tens of thousands of miles. On 12.5, we have a couple of thousand miles, and it hasn't even gone wide yet. This is way too soon.
It probably is too soon. I just want to say I don't think it's too soon to state that it's not going to be near 600 to 1,000 miles per critical disengagement.
Yeah, I agree with that. But Omar is about to have a heart attack. Okay, can we change the topic or something? Grant?
Yeah, two thoughts. So first, trying to take a data-driven view here, Omar, I think you did say something to the effect of it's super valuable, so people are going to see that. And I just want to, again, reiterate that the way that you would see that, the metric you would measure is the take rate. And Tesla has always had an opportunity to publish the take rates, even if they wanted to establish a low bar today and show how it's growing over time as the technology improves. They could, but they haven't done that because I don't think that consumers are actually finding value in it as it exists today. They rolled out a trial period, probably had a ton of people use it, and obviously the results weren't promising enough for them to share. It would have been the easiest way to provide a data point to support the AI narrative that they're working to promote to the street and investors.
Yeah, Omar?
Second, wait, I had a second point. Can I speak a little? I feel like Omar gets like 5 minutes of every 6.
Okay, make your second point quick.
Okay. The second point is that when we think about this transition that the FSD tech has made to neural nets, it's probably the right move. I mean, it is the right move. It's exciting. I think that you would expect to see a really exponential growth in the, metrics here if this was going to be a robotaxi anytime in the next 3 years or 4 years. It seems like this is a very challenging problem, and I look at these numbers and I think to myself, with every week that goes by, every month, that this is increasingly never going to be a robotaxi. So I'll drop that on there.
Omar?
Yeah, I think that you probably will see a big jump in the FSD tracker and also a big jump in the take rate with this software. A lot of people are kind of missing that the software is still not rolled out to most people. It's not for hardware 3 yet. About 75% of the fleet doesn't have it. So once it's available, I think we'll send out another 2-week free trial. I think hands-free is a game changer in that regard, with regard to the take rate. And I think in terms of the FSD tracker, even though it has its flaws, you still would expect there's going to be a big jump just based on what I'm seeing. Like, I get the software a little bit earlier and see what it's capable of, but then it eventually rolls out and we're going to see that data start to build up. The big thing that has changed is they seem to have an ability to make interventions go away without a full software update within hours or a day. So you go to an issue, go to an area, there's an issue, you come back the next day, it just works. So whether that's like map data on the server or something, that's sort of a step function change. And I think it's going to result in a noticeable improvement in the FSD tracker and in the take rate. Even if even if the tracker has some noise, this is such a big effect that it's going to be impossible for it to be hidden away.
Alan Mobley in YouTube live chat says, I don't care what the take rate is. Machine's mom takes it. That's all I care about. Machine.
I think I feel bad for Omar because in probably 6 months to a year, he's not going to be able to show his face in California. All these hardware 3 owners are realizing that there's zero chance their car is going to be a robotaxi, and they're going to blame him. In every corner, he's in this Cybertruck. Someone's going to flash him a devil sign or flip him off with the middle finger. And I just feel bad. He doesn't deserve that. Okay. He's an honest guy.
All right.
Yeah, hardware 3 is going to run 12.5. I've seen cars running it.
Uzi.
Just pure FUD that it won't.
Unlike Machine, I have something constructive. It's a question. So I'm looking at the FSD tracker, and it's remarkably hard to grasp what's going on without a comparison. So what would be, maybe a question for Omar, like miles to critical disengagement for Waymo? Because a lot of this is, looks great, but there's no standard average, and I assume Waymo would be that.
Well, Waymo reports their disengagements publicly, but they don't report remote assistance. So it's tough to really have an apples to apples comparison. What
Yeah,
you'd want
it's
to do
also
is what
Waymo
you'd
is
want
in
to
a
do
very
is
constricted space.
yeah, what you'd want to do is really sample Tesla's miles per intervention within Waymo service area and then compare within that service area to the Waymo service in the same area to eliminate, other sources of noise.
So considering there's like 15 entries for California, that's basically impossible as of right now. Over the past month, 15 entries. So I don't love the FSD
Okay.
tracker. I think it lags.
Okay. Luce.
So I think I disagree with Machine because I argue that it's not that they overfitted on a certain data. I think they don't even have started to like generalize FSD. They want FSD in the car to drive well in certain conditions in which they know basically the map data is correct and basically there are not other difficulties. Then they will try to make the car see and recognize the signals and then hand gestures. So they don't even have started, okay? So it's, in my opinion, it's not overfitted. It's that
Okay.
it's literally not even ready. It's not ready. It's
Okay, thank you. Yoda.
Yeah, just patiently listening to the conversation. But in the last 30 minutes, I've been driven by FSD without a intervention. I think, looking at critical interventions through the tracker, it feels like we're judging a up and coming basketball player. Think of Jordan in the 80s through his turnovers. And while turnovers is a metric that you want to grade a player on, the amount of data that we have right now relative to the miles driven is so small that it's sort of like taking a tiny minute of young Jordan playing in high school and saying he is going to be a star or not. He's going to succeed in the NBA. He's going to make it to the NBA or not. I think what Omar is trying to say is that by driving the car, you're kind of like playing the scout and you're actually watching much longer the gameplay on how that player's playing and over time progress how they progress, through different versions of FSD. I could tell you guys that, I'm still on 12.3.6, but without it being updating, I don't know how. I think this is what Omar was saying. It's improved as the core software improved. I don't know how it's doing that, but certain problem areas is gotten better. So I can't wait for
Okay,
12.5.
good. Yoda, have you adjusted your robotaxi timeline expectations?
No. Like I said, I care about the first ever deployment. Obviously, that's
So you still think it's going to happen on the robotaxi unveil?
yeah. It's the by the end of the year.
Okay, Machine.
I mean, this guy, this is unbelievable. I mean, first of all, I love the logic fallacies that go on this thread. I mean, everyone creates a straw man argument. My main point was, the CEO is saying making certain statements, and Yoda's like, well, we don't focus on turnovers. The CEO basically said Michael Jordan will have 90% less turnovers next season. And then he didn't have 90% less turnovers. And Yoda go, well, we don't actually care about turnovers. Well, the CEO said it was going to happen. Okay. And now you just said you don't care about those things, but by the end of the year, Michael Jordan's not going to have any more turnovers. That's what you just said, even though he's having as many turnovers as last year. It just doesn't make any sense.
Ron.
So I've been driving in my Plaid, 0 takeovers, 0 critical interventions. 12.3.6 was kind of shaky ever since I have the now 12.5, 0.3, whatever, 0.1. It's amazing. It's my own personal chauffeur. On top of that, I was at a car show where I had the only electric vehicle, There was about 125 cars that were all petro heads. I don't know why I decided to bring my Plaid there, but I drove a couple. Nobody knew, first of all, that the car could drive itself. Nobody at the show knew Teslas can do that. And number two, when I took them a couple of them for a ride, they were blown away. My barbershop, nobody in there knows that these cars are capable of driving themselves. So I just think that, once again, we're missing the forest before the trees. The rate of iterations that the software is going through, I firmly believe by the end of the year, we're going to be there.
Where?
Robotaxi.
Wow.
Dude,
Well,
literally, like I now
okay, Ron.
fall asleep when I'm driving my car. I
Yeah.
fall asleep
Okay.
almost because there's no issues driving with it
Yeah,
driving itself.
that's not the Emmanuel.
I just think it's funny that all the people that use FSD say it's great, there are no interventions, and it works well. And all of the people that don't use FSD base it on anecdotal evidence on Reddit or some crappy website that doesn't have any data. And so, I'm here in the peninsula, in the San Francisco Bay Area. And when my Cybertruck gets FSD, I'll make a coffee bet with you. We can go get coffee anywhere, except that at the end, you have to buy me the coffee if there are no interventions.
Yeah, but that's what so you're making the same mistake that Ron just did. One ride or 10 rides, 100-yard rides with no disengagement is not going to be enough to get to robotaxi level. You're going to need tens of thousands of miles with no critical disengagements. And even that may not be enough. You may have to be above 100,000. You may have to be 1,000,000 miles without critical disengagements. So
Yes, that's true.
I think, just seeing these like 99% of rides being critical disengagement free, it misses the fact that you still need 4 more nines to go after that to get to robotaxi level. So
That's true. That's why Elon said,
thank you, Emmanuel. Omar?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's true that it's overfit. It seems to be actually generalizing very well. It's looking at, I mean, first of all, this thing works not just in the US and Canada, but in Europe, in China. People in Europe, European regulators have said that it took them on a zero intervention drive in Europe that included roundabouts in Germany. So I think it's pretty hard to argue that it's overfit. Recently, I've been noticing it's really conforming to the laws of physics more than anything and training to that. Like in cases where cars are kind of behaving chaotically, not necessarily obeying the lane lines coming in from different directions, it kind of is able to handle those situations really well to keep you safe, even ignoring the lane lines if possible. And I think it's just learned to generalize to driving around the world pretty well. So, none of the people I've talked to who actually have the software have said, "Oh, I'm so mad at Elon. It didn't live up to what he said." They've all said, "Wow, this is even better than what he said." It's kind of just unbelievable. And yes, there's still lots of work to go before it's ready to be a robotaxi. Nobody's saying who's a serious person that it's ready to be a robotaxi, but it's just incredible progress, right? And to respond to just like, wow, this is incredible progress. I'm so excited. It's driving me around so smoothly and say, well, there's still a ton of work to go. Yes, but the progress is accelerating. We've got an update here between 12.3 to 12.5. That's bigger than the jump from V11 to V12.
Reigns.
Hi. So when I listen to the debates between Machine and Omar, I think it will be very interesting to do an analysis to analyze the distribution of different testers for their experience. So I collected 73 testers from FSD V12.3.6, and then I removed top 10% and bottom 10%. And then I have 57 testers left, and then I calculate the miles to intervention for each tester, and I ranked them. And as a result, eventually I did a cluster to cluster the result into 2 different groups. And then I get very interesting results. So basically, for 65% of testers, they're experiencing 17 miles to disengagement. But for the rest, 35% of testers, they're experiencing almost 500 miles to intervention. So that's the huge gap. That's why we are having this different experience between Omar and other guys.
Okay. Machine.
I think Reigns is doing great analysis, better than anyone else in the Tesla community, or better than what Tesla's providing us. So I think he should continue his work with critical disengagements. And I fully expect what he's seeing is that, and I agree, is that you have this huge skew of distribution in terms of how this software is performing for different people, or at least how they're reporting it. I just want to say to, I believe, Ron, I'll take you on your bet. Even if highly likely there will not be a critical disengagement on our drive. I mean, I'll buy you a coffee, even though I only have a Model 3 and you have a Cybertruck and you're rich, but that's fine.
Hey, Machine, when are you going to get hardware 3 or upgrade to hardware 4 car? Are you thinking about that at all?
I don't know. I actually officially have my Model 3 paid off.
But your wife wanted a new Model 3, right? So why are you denying your wife pleasure?
I never deny my wife pleasure.
I don't know. It might not be good for the space if Machine gets a car that can actually run FSD. We're going to need to find a new bear.
Well, speaking of, Grant.
Yeah, I was just going to make 2 quick points zooming out. One is that regardless of whether it's 200 miles or 500 miles, the absolute minimum is probably 20,000. So we're maybe 2% of the way there. I think that whether you before you get into, we need to reverse engineer the distribution for Saskatchewan, it's just like, it's nowhere near close to where it needs to be, regardless of what the teeny issues that exist with the data tracker may be. And then if I zoom out again, another disappointment in my mind is the fact that V12 has stepped up 2x versus V11. So, I mean, all of the promise and excitement and hope for neural nets, I believe it's going to get a lot better, to be clear, but apparently it's taking a lot longer than people thought. I mean, 200 miles, 500 miles, 1,000, 2,000 miles. I honestly, as a bear, would have been thinking about getting nervous if we were at like 4,000 miles of disengagement right now. And so the fact that it's been such a slog is really not an indication that things are going great. But again, that's just my take.
Omar.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really like this linear progression where you're like playing a video game and getting a higher and higher score. Behind these miles per intervention figures, there's issues, right? So let's say, for example, the car has an issue where it can't detect traffic lights every, 4 miles or something. So then you're probably going to have, 4 miles between interventions. Let's say you solve that. And then it can, the next issue is that every 20 miles, there's a parked car sticking out and it can't handle that. So it's not necessarily that you're kind of like pushing this up 1 mile at a time. As the software becomes more and more advanced, it makes leaps in terms of the amount of time it's able to run between an intervention. And it seems to be accelerating the increase in miles per intervention and rising not linearly.
Read. Read, you have to unmute yourself for us to hear you. McKinley.
Yes, thank you for taking my question. Giving me some space here. I'm from Norway. My name is Will, and my question is: my parents are getting a new Model 3 long range dual motor, and my question is regarding if you should purchase FSD, which at the presently now costs $6,000 in Norway, US dollars. And given the current subscription rate or subscription price in the US of $99, that would equate to around 62 months or 5 years where you would break even. So my question is basically, would
You're
you
in
recommend?
Norway?
Yes, I am.
Don't buy it. Not
You
until
would.
they announce, something more concrete about it coming to Europe.
Okay. Okay.
Good.
All right.
You
Thank
can
you.
always add it after, and they'll offer a subscription as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Pennington, welcome. Been a while.
Yeah, it has been. So I have this buddy of mine, very close to, and he just got the Model 3 Performance. He's using FSD all the time. But the guy has interventions constantly. It's turning onto the wrong highway. It's not navigating around the police. It's not navigating cones. It's not operating in the rain in Florida. So what I'm hearing from him is very different from what I'm hearing from Omar. And he seems to be very concerned that there's too many edge cases for this to ever get to the point of actually being autonomous. And he is not purchasing the software. So I get the blow by blow. Just wanted to share it.
What version of the software is he running?
He's on the latest. Well, I would say he's on version the version 15. I think it's like 15 or 15.1. So it's a relatively new car. I think he just got it.
Version 15 is your buddy Elon Musk?
No, whatever it's on. It's the
Does he have the hands-free yet?
Yeah, he has the hands-free.
Oh, okay. What area is he in?
In Boca Raton, Florida.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've used it in Boca Raton. It seems to work pretty well there. That was, version 9 or something. But, depending on where you are, some people can have issues in their area that, may be pretty common. So hopefully it'll improve.
Yeah, but what do you think about the rain? Because that seems to be one of his biggest frustrations. But obviously, it rains all the time in Florida, and he says he literally he can't even activate the software when it's raining. So this is not even about he's exiting. He's going to a concert and he can't get around the cones, and it's just making circles, or it's going to run into the police, so they have to take over there. It's not even about that. This is he can't activate it in the rain. So obviously, it rains all the time in Florida. So how do you tell somebody in Florida? Buy the software, even though you're not going to be able to use it so often?
Well, it should work fine in the rain. Here in the rain, it works. Sometimes you have to kind of like get under some cover and turn it on where it's not raining too hard. And then it'll stay on as long as you don't have to intervene, and it should continue running. Unless there's, really, really severe rain. We have some feedback from Retail Check as well. Steve Serrata says he's in Palm Beach, Florida, works fine in the rain. Throws deep rain warnings, but still works fine. Please leave it. Something about talking. Let's see. See what happens when you know yourself. I lose my place. Also, Tal says rain is fine here in Texas. Random. I used it in Boca Raton, Florida last week. Works rain. Times, whatever. Totally great. I would take it to a service budget maybe. Something else might be wrong. Yeah, a lot of people get confused because
Whatever. Totally great. I would take it to a service center, maybe something else might be wrong.
Yeah, a lot of people get confused because a message pops up in the rain that says autopilot may be degraded, use extra caution or something like that. But that's more of a disclaimer than an actual error. It's annoying, but the software should be able to drive around in the rain just fine.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much a solved problem at this point.
Software. When he first got it, he was so excited. But then between him and particularly his wife, there was so many what moments where they were scared, and that's a tough thing to digest after you just got your new car. You get so excited, but then you realize you're just not there yet, and is it worth it? So it's definitely concerning. because there are a lot of edge cases that I think we will all admit need to be solved. And depending on where you live, those edge cases will pop up more frequently than in other locations.
Mark.
Yeah, 12.36 here on a December 23 Model 3 in Florida, the Panhandle, and it's fine. I mean, I have standard disengagements. I have pretty short routes that I go, so I know when it's going to do something that they haven't finished. And I rented the same 12.36 in LA and drove up to the X takeover and back. It performed exactly the same way. So, you know, I don't think that's good data coming out of that last commenter.
Mark, we have a question for you. Are you eating cereal? From YouTube live chat.
Oh, it's broth, chicken broth.
Yeah, you can't eat when you're on the speaker boards. Just, you know, would you eat when you're on CNBC, even an interview?
Yeah, sure. I'll stop clinking.
I'll make sure you do. All right. Omar, NVIDIA stock is up 14% in the last week, whereas SMCI is down 60% from its peak. Do you think NVIDIA stock will continue to push higher? It's up 5% today alone. Do you think the AI bubble has popped? Or do you think NVIDIA will continue to push higher from here?
I think that I'm holding my NVIDIA. I'm not sure really whether it's going to go higher or lower short term, but I think long term, our demand for GPUs and their GPUs is going to increase quite a bit. We're really moving into a new paradigm for software. The era of software being created by human coders is starting to end. We're moving into a new paradigm where software is created by learning from humans, and you know, it can write its own code now in many cases with just a natural language prompt. So this is just the beginning of our demand for GPUs. Our demand for GPUs for inference and training and fine tuning is going to be eye-watering beyond what we can imagine today. So I remain bullish on the company long term.
We need to do a one-on-one interview for the YouTube channel. Are you down sometime this week for it?
Sure. Yeah, maybe second half of the week after Wednesday.
Yeah, perfect. Second half of the week after Wednesday sounds good. And now we can do a 1 week preview for members of the YouTube channel, and then open up to the public after that. And then maybe we can focus on, like, what I want to focus on with you, if that's okay with you, is longer term. How does the world look like in 2030? Because I think people have a really good idea of your views on FSD. We talk about it here every day. You post very frequently videos of your FSD drives. I mean, we can touch on that obviously too. Maybe how the training of FSD translates to training of Optimus. And I really want to understand your kind of worldview 5-10 years from today.
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting topic. I mean, we're moving into a very crazy future with AI.
Perfect. All right, that's coming later this week for members, and in a couple of weeks for YouTube subscribers. Subscribing is free. Membership is only $2.99 a month. You can also join members on live chats. You get previews of these videos. You get stickers and everything. So I recommend people, so to the extent that you find a subscription on X expensive, become a member on YouTube. That pushes the channel out to others as well. And right now we have about 65 members, and I really appreciate that interaction. And thank you very much, everybody, for your support of TSLA Live. This episode is sponsored by Joa Life. Use code TSLA Live for 5% of your purchases, and we will be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your evenings. No AI space tonight. We're all gonna listen to the 8 p.m. Donald Trump, Elon Musk interview. So no AI space today. Take care. Talk to you tomorrow.